Hi everyone, you're listening to the director's commentary track of the Dingos series pilot. My name is Jordan Devitre and I am the creator of the Dingos series. I was the writer and the director of the pilot episode, and also I played James. We made this pilot in the hopes that one day it'll be a stepping stone to getting a chance to make that elusive first season. And while we've had many challenges along the way, I can say with confidence that we will get a first season underway in the near future. So jumping right into it, immediately I wanted to jump into the action right from the get-go, where we're in this car with three strange young men momentarily cutting to a black screen accompanied with the heavy breathing of a girl. I decided to go on close-ups, particularly on Rick, played by Terrell Carden Reynolds, in the backseat, because he, out of the three, is someone you will see more of should the story continue. I wanted the audience to be able to recognize him. I've had the pleasure of working with Terrell before, and on one thing I have noticed with his performance is that he's very good using facial expressions. It's like he's stood in front of a mirror for ages just practicing his ability to evoke emotion through his face, so it doesn't hurt to go in close-ups when we use Terrell. When the boot is opened, a younger girl is revealed. That's Emma, played by Amanda Hedges. As you see, there's only one man of the three wearing a face mask, and that's because he's the spokesperson out of the three men. These guys are literally about to go film a ransom video, and he doesn't want his face shown when speaking in front of the camera. This story came to life from the culmination of three different stories that I had written, originally intended for the format of feature film. However, the more I looked into the story and the characters, it became clear that this wasn't a story just about one person. It was a story about the culmination of many individuals seeking what is ultimately the same goal. On the opening shot, we see Detective Dixon, played by Stephen Walker, then steadily rotates up to Cassandra, who is played by Mel Sparrow. I loved watching these two on screen in the same shot. I felt like they portrayed a certain familiarity to the characters. A fun fact about this two-shot, in fact, is that there's a significant height difference between Stephen and Mel, and it didn't help when we had the taller one standing and the shorter one sitting in the same shot, because we actually couldn't capture Mel's head in the same shot as Stephen's because he was too short and she was quite tall, so we had to put a box of some sort on Stephen's chair so that he looked higher than he actually was. So the whole time his legs are kind of just dangling there, which, in my opinion, it was quite fun to watch.
Until then, we can't
I think it made it quite clear how helpful you guys are. Thank you.
I think this scene was an amazing chance that Amanda took to really enforce her character's worth in this story. In this particular episode, she wasn't given a lot of dialogue, and in a lot of ways, she just was an innocent victim in all of this. However, what she was able to do with the character, I feel, allowed the audience to suggest that Emma will be around for longer than perhaps there's more to her than meets the eye, which I feel is a very powerful thing, and she did an amazing job with portraying that.
No idea what you're talking about, darling.
I loved this idea of revealing Cassandra from a blur during this sequence. We've just seen Rick kidnap a young girl, and we've seen Cassandra working in a police station, so surely these two can't be associated. So this blur transition we've just seen onto her face addresses the idea that not everything is what it seems in this story, and that there's a lot of lying and deceit in the works. Introducing James, the series lead, was one of the toughest things to execute, both from a story and cinematic perspective. It's very rare to introduce a leading man this late into an episode. However, I felt it was necessary to introduce the world before the character himself. Revealing him in this dark, dank, almost prison cell type room enforced the origin of James. He's in his element here in the dark, which suggests he's been in that place all of his life. And after stepping out into the light, the dark, brooding music we had playing when he was exercising is suddenly cut out, which for me portrays that he's out of his head now. Moving up to the fight scene with the other leading Dingo characters, a rock and roll track is introduced. It was pretty amazing what we did test in sound in order to make this scene more rock and roll than it actually was. Without the music, the scene itself was quite bland and non-eventful. However, having a track like that accompanying the scene changed the mood astronomically. It's incredible what music and sound really brought to this story, especially. The choreography between Darren and Carlos was tricky to execute as well. I remember this was our last day of filming and time got away from us quite quickly, so we were under the pump trying to create the most realistic bare knuckle style fight we could. I still to this day feel bad for Carlos himself. He had to fall on the ground numerous amounts of times with his shirt off, so mad respect for Carlos for being a sport about that.
You find these fucking pricks.
Shooting this scene was really exciting for me as a director because it's a room full of 6 of our leading characters, and establishing a dynamic between all of them was something I really was glad to be involved in. Of course, this meeting scene was a way to introduce our incredibly powerful female role, Joan, played by Mel Day. It was important to me that this scene showed off Joan's authority amongst the boys. In this room, we have 3 young gangsters, one heavy-set brute thug, and a gun smuggler, so ideally they're all dangerous men, and yet Joan is the one with all of the power. The queen surrounded by her pawns, which is really just awesome. And having John, who was played by Matthias Claver, standing viciously behind her also evoked a dominance effect that Joan has over John. And Mel herself kicked ass playing the role.
Small time Prim's looking to tool up to get in with the bigger boys.
So what do they care?
They wanted in. I refused.
Why?
Because they're occult evasion dogs who kidnap innocent girls.
Enough. John, get out. All of you, get out.
This scene of the 3 dingoes packing the trunk of the car was personally my favourite scene to shoot as an actor, because the relationships developed between the cast over the course of filming made shooting so much more streamlined, and this scene with Josh, Carlos, Darren and myself almost felt like no acting required. It felt much like the scene unfolded on its own, which made it much less strenuous and more comfortable to shoot.
Alright, thanks mate, we'll see you soon.
Hey, yo, what's Homeboy doing?
Sorry, mate. It was John's call.
It took a long while to get the steps of this fight scene just right. Our biggest challenge was adapting to the environment we shot in, because we hadn't done any rehearsals prior to shooting day. So we set aside a fair amount of time to execute each step of the fight scene just right, from the first encounter between Rick and Marco and then to the gunshot.
What's up?
I was really proud of how this scene turned out. I love how a scene can say so much without the spoken word, and this scene was a perfect example where actors can say a lot with just their eyes and their gestures, along with the soundtrack as well. Nothing too accentuated. It was just a slow kind of monotone track. Nothing needed to be said during this scene, which is such a powerful thing. And I really loved watching it on the screen after it was done. In this last scene on the cliffside, which ironically was the last scene we shot, I think was the most fun to see on screen because so much of it was improvised. On the day of shooting, time had gotten away from us like very, very quickly. So I scrapped a lot of what was in the script because it didn't fit, and we were all left to sort of improvise the last scene. And the way it happened was so organic, and how Chris Rass, our DP, was able to move in on whoever was talking was really exciting to see. And I'm really proud of how the whole sequence turned out, especially in the final scene. It was a perfect way to wrap up the episode.
Part of the boys? In your dreams, princess.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the director's commentary over the Dingos series pilot. I want to thank everyone who was involved in the making of this film, from cast to crew, and to our amazing backers for showing amazing support through the whole of production. If you guys want to see the full pilot episode, feel free to visit Devitre Media on Vimeo or on YouTube. Or if you want to find out more information on the making of each of our episodes or all of our projects, just visit www.devitremedia.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well for further updates. This is Jordan Devitre, Devitre Media founder. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.